Hi everyone, good evening. How are you all doing? Been a while since we have connected. I hope all of your preparations are going well. We are just 2 months away from the exam now. Okay.
It is a quiet group, I see.
Yeah, it's quite true. I think they are just, out of the habits of getting into the coffee chats. So yes, guys, we are almost 2 months away from the exam at this point, 2 months and a week or so. At this time, the purpose of today's coffee chat is, as we always say, it is open to everyone to ask your question and answers, mostly preparation related. You can also ask some technical questions if you want this, but mostly preparation related or largely getting into how to prepare for the next 2 months.
Yeah. And, a responsive group would be really nice at this point. The reason being this session is for you guys to, like speak up. At this point, you would have started your preparations. So I'm pretty sure that
Yeah.
there would be, certain questions you have in mind about preparation, time management, like so many other things, in your head at this point, which you're not sure of. So, this is that platform where you just like unmute yourself and, like discuss your questions with us, and we will try to help you as much as we can there.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of questions that we received over chat from the students, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll start with that just so that you guys
Yeah.
can open up a little bit in the meanwhile and like think of your questions that you want to ask.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe the first question that we have, commonly received from many people, how should I be structuring the next 2 months? So we are roughly like 65 days away from the exam. So the expectation is that at until this point of time, the technicals for all of you as students are done. Who all of you who are already a part of the course, I'm pretty sure, you would have gone through that 50-hour course that we have. And then now you also would have written some cases. See, at this time, it is very, very important and critical to note that you still have 2 months and 5 days. It is still time, like you guys still have time. So don't be too critical about your, critical about the cases that you are writing. Be confident about the process. It would take time for you to be in a position that you feel more confident about your own cases, but the purpose is that until now, your technicals plus you would have written some or maybe like 5 to 10 cases or maybe 5 to 15 depending on where you are at in terms of preparation. And now the balance 2 months you focus towards revising your technicals. All of our registered students uh,
Yeah, right.
yeah, so all of our registered students, as we have mentioned before, that do revise your technicals a couple of times at least before the exams. Even from here, even these 2 months, you should be revising your technicals once closer to the exam and twice, perhaps like maybe once this month, once the next month, and then once very close to the exam. That is how your journey should be.
Yeah. So, like, we've seen this tendency with students that, when you start with the course, or, not only us, but with any tutor or however you're studying, you start with the technicals, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But then once the students actually start practicing cases, then they don't go back to the technicals.
yeah,
And there could be various reasons for it that, maybe the technicals that they refer to, they were very long, they weren't able to make it concise, in terms of the notes, and now they don't even know where to start the revision from.
yeah,
But our point is that at this point, when you have done the technicals once, 2, 3 weeks have passed by, you have written a couple of cases.
yeah,
Now is the time that you pick up the technicals again
yeah,
and you start revising them again,
yeah,
because it's human mind, you will keep forgetting things. And this is one question that we received on, we've received many times, in general as well, that just by studying one time,
yeah,
you cannot expect yourself to remember and memorize everything. That's not humanly possible. When we say that through our course, you're able to remember technicals, memorize them,
yeah,
and that helps you save time during the exam, that you don't have to refer to nausea as much. That only happens with time. When you revise something multiple times, when you keep going back to it,
yeah,
that is when your mind will start remembering it,
yeah,
and you will start seeing that with time. So,
yeah,
an important reminder that if you haven't revised your technicals in the past 2 weeks, now is a good time to do that,
yeah,
right? And then you will start seeing that progress also. When you pick up your cases next after the first revision, after the second revision, you will feel that, without just looking at the question, for example, a tax question, or for example, any sort of question or FR question, you would just go through it and you will know in your mind that, oh, I know this, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And that gives you a different level of confidence. Right? So that's one thing that we wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Another thing that we wanted to talk about was for our students specifically who have the study planner. You know that how we have scheduled cases for every week, like
Yeah.
which cases you need to practice,
Yeah.
self-practice also, and the cases that we are marking for you also. Now we understand that not everybody, would be able to. That study planner started from June 1, but we
Yeah.
know that not everybody would have been able to finish the technicals by then and then start with the case writing.
Yeah.
So one thing is that that is just an indicative planner. It's not, like you don't have to abide by it day by day. If you're anywhere in the middle of that planner, like maybe you started the course 2 weeks back and you are still going through your technicals today, you are it doesn't mean in any way that you're late or you're missing out on something.
Yeah.
It just means that you will have to maneuver that planner as per your situation, right?
Yeah. So that is the second point that we wanted to put out. Then another point which we have been, so we are like, sort of, we have curated the questions that we received. So another common question that we have been receiving is about time management. So, many people do struggle with, writing enough AOs, whether it is day two, whether it is day three. Obviously, day two is more difficult. Sometimes students are able to complete only, let's say, 11 out of the 14 AOs, but students are also facing this issue on day three. So one point obviously is that everyone is in the same boat. So this issue does not apply to just one student or the second student. This is a very common issue. The thing is, this gets improved with time as you practice more. It does not mean that you have to, maybe extend your time. So one of the major tips that we always give you, if the case says 70 minutes, you have to abide by 70 minutes. Because if you don't abide by it, maybe let's say you say, okay, I will finish my case irrespective. You can finish your case, surely, just to evaluate yourself. But at the end of 70th minute, you have to stop there and see where you are at. So this habit will help you improve, because let's say consistently over four cases you were able to just do six AOs out of the seven AOs that were given in the question. Then at least in the fifth case that you will pick up, your tendency would be, any student would see where they are lagging behind on. And we have mentioned every now and then, you should be evaluating those cases, which AOs, which type of AOs are actually taking more time. It is generally the financial reporting AOs, let's say on day three, which take more time. Let's say, each of those AOs that you are doing for financial reporting on day three, it is generally taking around 15 minutes of your time. So you should be cutting that out. You should be knowing where you are spending more time, so that you know where your focus should be if you actually want to complete all the AOs.
That is a very good point. And the reason, like Ravneet said, that students have a tendency that, now that I'm attempting this case, even though I crossed the time, I should maybe still attempt the remaining two questions just so that I can see if I knew them, if I did them correctly or not.
Yeah.
Now, while that is a good approach, but then you have to put yourself in that tough spot where your brain or your mind has to process that I have to do these six questions within the 90-minute time frame.
Yeah.
Because if you just always keep giving that comfort to yourself that, I can do I just missed two questions, I'll do that in the next 15-30 minutes and, I will be fine.
Yeah.
It is a habit. Then if you continue doing like this, at the end of the day of the exam, you will feel very stuck.
Yeah.
And that is not going to be a good spot to be in. So right now, when you're practicing, you have to train your mind to kind of find ways how you can, because when you will start doing this, you will maybe realize that, oh, you know what, I'm maybe writing too much, I'm being too verbose, maybe I should learn how to put across my point but
Yeah.
not write a lot of words so that I'm able to
Yeah.
save time.
Because in
And
the
then
end, the objective is to complete your exam, right?
Exactly.
So complete all the AOs. If
Yeah.
you have that objective in your mind in the end, then you will yourself find your way out. Because
Yeah.
some students may be taking more time in financial reporting, some may be taking more time in, let's say, management accounting.
Yeah.
So, it is specific to each student.
Exactly. And then until you don't realize this, or
Yeah.
you don't think at it this way that, maybe there is one particular subject that is taking more time for me to answer. Until then, you cannot correct that,
That's right.
right? So, and it can eventually in the exam hamper your other subjects or
Yes.
other questions or AOs at that time. So that is why we are enforcing this so much. Like even at the time when we were preparing, we used to hear people say, that you should stick to the time, stick to the time. But when you are in that preparation stage, you don't really take it very seriously because you feel like, oh yeah, I just missed two AOs, right? That's not a big deal. Maybe I'll get better. But until you make that mindset that, okay, I don't have to exceed time, you'll not be able to get there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have more questions on the list, but before that, maybe Karan has his hand raised. So Karan, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for organizing the coffee chat.
Mm.
Am I audible enough?
Yes.
Yeah, I specifically have a question on day two insurance. So,
Yeah.
while doing the materiality and the audit procedures and the assertion sections, so where we have like the risk assertions and then the procedures, this is the pattern which has been given. So, if we determine any kind of assertions, is it necessary like if we determine four assertions, we need to write like the four procedures to it? Like, what is the ideal limit to, cut short and move on to the next AO? Because like on day two, it's like I'm not able to figure out because the case is too lengthy. And if we know, like I see the question and I know I can write three assertions or like I can write three procedures on it. But then where do you limit yourself and move on to the next AO? Like I don't want to be like it's exciting as well, but then I don't want to miss out on the other AOs as well.
So
The exciting thing that you said that's actually very important because when you come across a question that you just feel like, oh, I am going to give this answer perfectly, and then I look at the others
Yes,
and I
yes.
go to them. So it's an art of knowing where you have to stop and then move on to the others. So that's a good point. You were saying
yeah,
something.
but on the procedures, like specifically, pushing my answer towards the procedure, you don't need to earmark always the assertion with the
Yeah.
procedures. It
Okay.
is always a good habit to interlink that. That is what we have taught in the assurance sessions as well. It is always
Hmm.
a good habit, but it is not necessarily always because let's say sometimes on any balance sheet item, let's say that there are four or five assertions that can apply. Maybe say all of the assertions can apply, but you
Hmm.
need not use all of those assertions all the time in your procedures. So let's say if you are, you have time to write just let's say three or four procedures in a particular procedure on financial reporting question. So you need not interlink the assertion all the time. Maybe you can interlink two or three, the
It's
best you
because
can.
it's actually the other way around. We would say that assertions actually, there can be situations where students cannot think of a procedure.
Yeah.
At that time, knowing those assertions and interlinking is important because through those assertions, sometimes you're able to think back that, oh,
Yeah.
if I have to verify accuracy, then how can I test this
Yeah.
as an auditor,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
that's kind of the way. So you can still write all the three, four, five
Yeah.
assertions in the assertions heading, but then your
Hmm.
procedures can still be independent and different.
So assertions actually, help you write the correct
Yeah.
procedures. Is our
Okay.
basically it is not a mandate, but if you use assertions, that actually help you write not vague procedures, but very to the point, exam-oriented procedures.
And
Yes.
on the number of procedures, I would say four is a good number.
Yeah.
You don't
Okay.
like if it is like an accounting procedure uh or the assertion that we're talking about, that's something like bank or
Yeah.
cash. Now that is something where you can write six or seven procedures.
Yeah.
Again, that is where you should know that
Yeah.
only five procedures, but procedures which hit directly, you're able to link to
Yeah.
like the assertion, and then you're able to say that we will do this procedure to ensure that there's
Yeah.
completeness or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
frame them well, but four is enough.
Okay. Okay. And so that was day two. Also, with respect to the AOs, so there are like AOs where FR and assurance both are related, interlinked. So like how do we proceed that? So generally, like you mentioned, we have to complete the assurance AOs first
Yeah.
because it's like that's what it's been tested in day two. But then if FR is interdependent on assurance, so how do we answer that?
Yeah. So see, there are two primary questions that are actually interlinked. One is the procedures one that we were
Yeah.
just discussing. Second is the materiality one. So
Yes.
more or less, whenever materiality is coming in, so let's say you are basing your materiality, which is more or less 90% of the time based on
Net profit.
net profits, right?
Yeah.
So you need to make certain financial reporting adjustments. Those adjustments are interlinked with financial reporting. So that's the question. So if you are, if not, so this is what we recommend. So when you are prioritizing assurance questions and you are doing this materiality calculation, so you just leave space. You just leave a couple of rows. Let's say you are doing materiality in an Excel.
Which
Yeah,
we recommend that,
yeah,
you do it in
Yeah.
Excel because you're able to put the
yeah.
formulas.
Performance materiality as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
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 So just keep yourself 30 to 50 seconds, maybe a minute or so, just to add that, so that as soon as you add it, the materiality number pops up.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the Word file that you would be writing your response on, you just mention a reference to the exhibit. You don't have to bring it, to the Word file, so that your financial reporting adjustment directly goes into two line items in an Excel and you are done.
Yeah.
So basically, you still have to prioritize assurance is our point, but just keep in mind these 2 points. Some people, and on the procedures part, so some students do write the procedures alongside they are writing the financial reporting questions. Some people do that because they have it in their mind, like let's say it is on inventory. So you just attempted a question on inventory on financial reporting. Now you have everything in your mind. Now you want to write directly procedures on that. So if you would remember, from the sessions, so we actually suggest you an outline, right? Like the entire 13 AOs on the Word document. So once you are done with the first part, let's say you did a question, first question was on inventory, you did that. Now you want to write procedures on the inventory. So you already have the space opened up under the procedure section
Yeah.
because you have done the outline. So you can just go there. So that does not break the chronology as well, but at the same time helps sane helps you sane your mind too. So it is up to you. Generally we still suggest just focus on assurance first and then go to.
Because, on day two, there is always this one question where they will simply in one liner say that, can you also please suggest audit procedures for the
Yeah.
accounting issues?
Yeah.
Now, in there, the accounting issues are generally two or three, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
like with that, like Ravneet said, it's up to you. Sometimes students feel that, oh, if it is
Yeah.
an accounting issue, maybe I will be able to articulate the procedures
Yeah.
better once I actually attempt the question, right? But like somebody else could say that the audit procedures are still not going to change much, so maybe I can do it,
Yeah.
while I'm doing
The only
assurance.
point is don't mix up the chronology. That
Yeah.
would be our suggestion. Just maintain the chronology, right?
Okay, okay. Just a follow-up question on this. So like you mentioned, the materiality calculation should be done on Excel. So, in your lecture, you have like the 7 points which we need to follow accordingly to calculate the materiality question. So we just have to do the materiality original calculation and the performance materiality in Excel, and rest of the assumptions
Yeah.
or the sensitivity to the errors and everything should be documented in Word file,
What?
right?
That's
Okay.
right.
And if we need to make any kind of assumptions while we are doing the calculation, do we need to mention it in the Excel just so that the calculation and the assumption relay to each other, or that also needs to go on Word file?
No, no, Excel is fine.
Excel.
Excel is fine, right?
When you're making any assumptions for a calculation, it's better you do it,
Excel.
besides it.
Okay, okay, perfect. Like how we used to do in our C exams, the same way, right? Like we used to have the calculation and the assumptions right
Yeah,
below
like
below the calculation.
right,
Just
right below or right by the side, whatever you prefer.
okay, okay. And last question, so that others can get chance. Like I have a lot of questions, but I'm just making sure that I'm covering most of it. So in AOs, where for example, like while writing the case, I just got an AO which I did not know what to do about it. Like there was a situation which was like, not to say that it was not covered in the notes, but
Yeah.
then like it did not make sense to me because I thought that I did not read anywhere in the notes. So how
Yeah.
to tackle that? Like how do we need to go through that AO? For example, I don't know anything in the exam. There would be a situation where I don't know what to write this. So do we need to go like the format which we have, issue, the gap, the analysis, and the conclusion? So, for
Yeah.
getting at least RC, what would be a proper approach to tackle that AO?
See,
One thing I would say to this is that even in exam, there will always be something or the other which is going to be tricky,
yes.
Hmm.
and which you will feel like, oh, I didn't do this well, or maybe I don't know how to go about it, how to approach it. Like in just this recent attempt that passed by, MA was very tricky.
Yeah.
So most of the students struggled with it. The thing with such questions, if they come on the day of exam for day two or day three, both, is that first you prioritize the other AOs. You
Yeah.
try to finish all of that. But that being said, we never suggest or advise any of the students to skip that one AO that you didn't know.
Yeah.
The
True.
reason for that is it is very likely that if you are finding that AO difficult,
Yeah.
many people in that exam hall are also finding it difficult.
Yeah.
With those sort of questions, what happens is that generally the marking is lenient.
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
Now, if you just skipped it and you didn't attempt it at all, what grading will you get? You will obviously get an NA because you
NA.
didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But if you saved like 7 minutes for it, 10 minutes for it, and you just like sat, you wrote
Yeah.
the issue, you tried to go to the nausea for the gap, taking an example that it's an FR question,
Yeah.
you were able to find something. Like in our attempt, there was a financial instruments question that I didn't know. So I still saved like 10 minutes at the end of day two just to like, figure out if I was able to find something in nausea about it. I still started with issue, gap, brought in whatever made sense to me, wasn't able to complete it, but did something, right? So that is what your approach should be, that just don't leave it blank. Do whatever you find makes sense to you. Same applies to MA also. Even if it's a question of MA where there's a complex variance analysis
Yeah.
that you don't know, like a sales mix, you don't remember the formula.
Hmm.
Start with it, write down, some sort of like you can make up some sort of formula just because you've got, all the other
Yeah.
formulas. So you can make some sense out of it, do whatever you can, and just don't sit over it a lot.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
think Guneet has covered most of the, what was required to be answered here. To add up here, and perhaps reiterating, in each of the attempts that have come in the last 5, 7 years, since the CFE actually shaped up. So in each of those attempts, generally 20% part would be difficult. When we say 20%, on a day two, we are talking about 1 to 2 questions, right? Two
Hmm.
questions would be difficult always. And when we say difficult, we don't mean that it would be something out of the ordinary, but it would be something out of the cadence. By cadence, we mean, something which like risk assessment procedures. You mentioned in the questions that, this has been appearing time and again. That's a standard question, right? But let's say in one of the cases or one of the attempts, RAP does not show up, but instead of that, a question on, let's say, assurance procedures on IPO comes up. Now, the
Hmm.
thing is, you need to keep your mind sane there that, okay, this is one of those two questions that is under the challenging category. Everyone is facing that challenge. I need to make sure what I can attempt the best because, to cover the syllabus 100%, you need to go through 5,000 pages, right?
Yeah.
So you need to do this in a very exam oriented fashion. Do that 80%, 85% to the best of your ability. The balance 10%, you do your best. And believe us, even those will be graded pretty well for you if you attempt, because there would be students who would flunk in that situation and say, oh, I don't know this and I don't want to attempt this.
And
So
I'll save that time and
yes,
instead like
and do something
write
better.
more in
Yeah.
So
AOs.
Yeah.
because, rather than NA, you better be at RC and a potentially C, because the grading would be, is not exactly always to the point. Like,
Hmm.
obviously there is a marking scheme, but it is not always to the point. It is very much subjective of how everyone is doing,
Perfect. So,
right?
so thank you so much again. Just not to like put it like it's missing from the like
Yeah,
the
obviously.
notes and everything, but then really the notes are very amazing, and the way you guys have conducted the lectures and everything, it's really helping. The revision is going easily as well, and again, the examples which you have shared during the lectures, the tips and tricks, that during writing the cases, we can go through those exams, like the examples. So thank you so much for that as well.
Please,
Thank you,
thank you.
thank you.
No, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes,
Yes,
Hima.
Hema.
Hi Ravneet, hi Guneet. Am I audible?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I might get disconnected because I'm traveling, so my internet may not work properly. But
Yes.
I have some questions related to what Karan asked. So specifically in materiality question, what sometimes happened with me, now I have written some cases as per your schedule. What I sometimes face is that my adjustment amounts are incorrect, or maybe sometimes I'm not able to kind of
Yeah.
go through those adjustments because I don't have time.
Yep.
So does it affect my marking
No, no.
drastically, or is it just a small thing?
No, see, it doesn't impact at all. The reason is, see, you did your financial reporting AO in a particular manner. You need to consider, or even the marker needs to consider that as a definite, whether it is correct or incorrect. Now, wherever that amount flows, it does not mean that AO would also be incorrect. So, just focus on your financial reporting AO. The balance AO specifically to your question, that does not impact your materiality amounts.
And this is for all the students.
Yes.
Like, if let's say the materiality as per the board response for a question was, say, 200,000,
Yeah.
and your materiality came out to be 500,000, you will still be awarded a C or even a CD just if you followed the right steps, you did
Yeah.
the calculation, you did the analysis. It's completely all right. Your numbers, your decisions, whatever you make, even in other subjects, they can be different than what the board had.
Yeah.
But if they were in line with what you analyzed and how you concluded everything, you followed the format and everything, you will still be fine. So you don't have to worry that, oh, if, like they concluded that this was maybe like a different performance obligation in an FR revenue question, and you concluded that
Yeah.
I think it was, maybe
Yeah.
3 performance obligations. It will still be fine as long as your analysis makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's right.
Okay. And at this point of time, like uh, what I am feeling is that I am still not able to put that stop writing when writing the AO. Will it come with the time that I will be able to put full stop on the AO that, okay, I should move to next one? Because what happens is that, okay, I wrote the case, let's say last week, and I could figure out that, okay, I could write 5 AOs out of 6 for day 3. But then there is a case that comes out this week where I don't know the AO and I could just attend maybe 3 AOs. So
Yeah.
that kind of demotivates me. Okay, am I progressing, or am
Yeah.
I just not
Yeah.
getting on my way? And first I missed just 1 AO and now I'm missing 3 AOs.
Yeah. So see, Hima, throughout, and this has been for all the attempts that even we have mentored students. Your journey cannot be like this. Like, cannot be a steep curve. It will be ups and downs. The
Like, there is
reason,
a reason that you
yeah,
start 3 months before the exam, two
yeah,
months before the exam, because you take time to get better.
yes,
The only thing with this is that after every case you write, you see what you did wrong,
yeah.
how you can do it better in the next case you
Your
write.
focus should be on the improvements.
Yes.
Again, we started off the session today. If you would be too critical of what you're doing, it gets difficult because you get demotivated. We can
Yeah.
understand, and this is a very, common feeling among various students, but at different times. Sometimes the student would be, as you yourself mentioned, that I'm doing great. Like there were some students in the last attempt who, who were doing. We already knew those students are doing really well, and would be, very much towards the pass category, like we already knew. But those guys also sometimes didn't do well at their cases and then used to, approach us and discuss their like situation. So which is why your journey cannot be as smooth as you would like it to be. But our suggestion here is focus on the improvements. Like you missed out on 3 AOs, sure. Now think, okay, why did I miss out? Was it the technicals? Was it that I, just could not write due to time pressure?
Yeah, and another advice there is, and again for all of the students in the coffee chat, that when you attempt cases, try to note down the time. And Ravneet used to do this, at the time, and I used to be like, oh, how is this helping? But then with time, I understood what his objective was. That let's say he started the first AO at 9, he would just like write it in rough somewhere that okay 9, and then when he finished the AO, say 9:12, he would just say okay 2-9:12. Then similar for the next AO, next AO, next AO. How that would help him is that at the end of the case, he would have the exact timings of which AO took him how much time.
Yeah.
And so there would be AOs where he would have written them below 10 minutes time. But
Yeah.
then there were AOs where he would spend like, 20 minutes. I think in FR,
Yeah.
in day 2, he used to like write a lot. Obviously, everybody does that,
Yeah.
right? So then when you're able to pinpoint that, okay, these type of questions, they are taking more time. It's possible that for you, the procedure questions are taking more time,
Yes.
or the WIR questions are taking more time. So then you know exactly where the problem is, and then you're able to fix it.
And also to add here, focus on your strengths also.
Yeah.
Let's say, I used to do tax in generally in 5 to 6 minutes. Now I always knew that I would be doing my tax in 5, 6 minutes. I have a buffer of 4 minutes there. I can use that buffer maybe in financial reporting because I am a bit, maybe FR takes time or maybe I am a bit slow. So now I know that FR is getting covered by tax. That was my way of tackling the situation, right? So everyone has their own. Let's say, if you still take more time in tax, then you need to figure out how do you cut it. Either you are writing more verbose, like maybe you are reproducing the same thing from the Excel and the Word document as well. Try to cut down on your own time.
Yeah. And then another thing is that at this point, I would say the more mistakes you make, the better it is for you.
Yeah.
And the reason is that when you get we just like shared this in the coffee chat for the last attempts students as well, that at this point, even when you mark cases for yourself or we share feedback guides with you for the cases we have marked, when there is a question where you got a C, you will not even look at that question in detail.
Yeah.
But whenever there is a question where you got RC or you got NC, you will always, like look into it, debrief it deeply, try to remember the technical, make your notes. So the more questions you get wrong at this point, it's
That's
actually better because it is preparing you. You are giving more time to it. If you start getting 6 C's right now, I think you will not even debrief the case that seriously.
In fact, then there would become a situation that, Hima, you may be texting us that, okay, I'm done with 26 cases. What do I write?
I write more.
So yeah, we're in a good situation. And by the time the exams actually come, believe us, on the exam day, most students are able to attempt most years because the exam day situation or exam day pressure is completely different. You know that I cannot exceed 10 minutes and then you don't, right? So to your question, when you say, when will the time come that we would stop?
It's coming.
Yeah, so
Hold on.
it is coming. You still
Yeah.
have the 65 days, Again, to reiterate this point, we have helped students pass in just 65 days also. You are at least 2, 3 months ahead of them. So,
Yeah.
believe in the process and, you would be fine.
Yeah, and I think just one more last question is specifically this happens with me in FR. I don't find words to kind of, there are these conditions and criteria, met, not met, met, not met. Sometimes I uh, take a lot of words to just explain it. So I feel that that will come with the time that, okay, this is because when I look at the report, the CPA report, they have just written a single sentence and then they say that this is met. So,
Yeah.
so that will also come with time, right?
Yeah.
That I when I start like do debriefing
Yeah.
and over the
By the
time I'll
time
get to know.
you write, let's say 6 to 10 or 12 cases, you would know, because sometimes the questions are also repetitive. Not to say that they would repeat, but sometimes they are repetitive. Let's say on non-monetary consideration, there is always a question on commercial substance that comes every now and then. You would
Yep.
know to the bones that okay, the first two conditions are something that you need to elaborate much on. Then comes like reciprocal things, like you just need to mention it very casually. So, with
Yeah.
time, as you write more cases, you would have it at the back of your hand as well.
Yeah, and met not met is generally you have to keep it very simple because generally your met or not met explanation, it's not even going to be a full sentence. Most of the times it's simply as simple as met because XYZ did this. Like generally it should be a case fact that
Yeah.
you're putting there. Like how do you know that this company is meeting
Yeah, this is met.
right? And when you are bringing in the case fact, you don't have to write the full, because it's going to take time. It's going to waste your time.
Yeah.
When you replicate the case facts in your exam, you have to be very concise.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say when I'm writing the case and I am on the fourth or fifth condition that well I'm explaining met or not met, but then I'm running out of time. I should directly go to conclusion and then finish up on it, right? And don't think about met, not met. Just I
Like
have mentioned the
if you
conditions.
if you just have 10 seconds, obviously you have to move to the conclusion. Like there is
Yeah.
no other option because there is a chance that just writing conclusion and to the point you have done your work, you may get a C.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's it for me. I think I don't have any questions. I'll just
Thank
hear
you.
about others' question.
Yeah,
Thanks
sure.
so much.
No worries.
Yes, Chika.
Yeah, hi, Kenneth.
Hey.
And thank you for having this section. I have a question. So, I think one of the strategy section you said that we should focus on our objective first.
Sorry,
So,
one of the
like
strategy
focus,
session.
yeah, that we should focus on our role
Assurance.
first. Yeah,
On the rule,
assurance.
yeah.
So on day two, so if I tackle assurance first, and
Yeah.
for instance, I have a procedures question that I know, because based on the board response, I see they always integrate case fact, like maybe what's happened in the financial reporting aspect and the conclusion that you gave based off the financial reporting. So because I've not done FR at that point, how do I now link it to my assurance, AO that I'm actually talking about? Yeah, that's my first question.
So actually, we did address this, Tika, just a while back, maybe at the start of the session. We'll just briefly touch upon this. It is always like our advice is always to, wait for FR to come and then you can write your assurance and link into that. But if you feel like, if you are more comfortable that, okay, I'll just write when the assurance is actually coming, I'll just write at that point of time itself. It is solely up to you. Uh, it is basically the time that you're investing. Let's say just to write the procedures, if you have to go through the financial reporting question, obviously, you are duplicating your time. So ideally, the best situation is you write assurance to the best leave the FR part. Then when you do the FR, then you can link it up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, thanks for the response.
Yeah.
Okay, I think my next question is like, how do I actually, I know, I mean, you've been talking about managing time, but most times I don't even finish for my day three and day two, and you just explained it. But like, I'm just trying to know on the exam day, would I have like a watch because I used to use stopwatch to monitor myself. How do I know, or do I continuously check my timing? Another question is, how do I save my work? For instance, I'm almost running out of time. Do I save it and send it to somewhere, or do they just shut the system off me? Like, how is the process?
So one is to the first question, like similar to we are in front of a laptop just now. So everywhere, wherever you would see on top of you, whenever you will basically raise your head, you'll see a watch. That is how the number of watches that you'll see. Those are big digital clocks that you'll see 901, 902, things like that. So watch would never be a problem. They don't allow you to carry a watch. That is one. Second question, does this system gets switched off? So no, what happens is they just, make a call that everyone needs to stop writing, and then you have to stop writing. Otherwise, they can maybe, take some action. So you have to stop writing when they say. Yeah, that helps
Okay,
answer.
yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. And also, Chika, there is a very good session that we actually did very close to the June attempt that just passed by. Maybe you can check that on YouTube. It was, I think, the last session or second last session that we did from here, which was very close to June attempt, and that has a lot of admin tips and tricks. What actually you should be thinking about when it gets closer to the exams. That is not something we would suggest you to watch today
Because
because
we will do it for you guys as well.
yeah,
But like these are things that you should not worry about at this point.
yeah,
So this is a session that we just save for when you are like 2 weeks away
2 weeks.
from the
Yeah.
exam on the admin
So
things, right?
don't worry, like we would be there with you even for these questions.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, Harleen.
Hi, Ravneet Guneet.
Okay.
I got a question on day two when I was debriefing and referring to board's response.
Yeah.
They have mentioned the CAS paragraphs, like how we do it in the FR, like the gap
Yeah.
and analysis. Do we have to do that?
No.
Oh,
You
okay.
just write as per handbook.
Okay.
Just as per handbook is fine. Same for financial reporting, same for assurance.
Okay. And my second question is for the tax, like especially day three, there are a lot of questions that come up like this is the benefit and then you analysis as per employer and employee. For the employer, I usually find it's easier to say like, okay, this is allowed as a deduction and why it is allowed as a deduction because it is in the course of business. But for the employee part, it's like, I don't know how to write why. It's like in the act, we know it is an allowable deduction and not allowable. Like, what do we give as why for it?
I'm trying to think of an
An
example.
example.
Um,
Yeah, see, yeah,
Let's
you're
say
right.
the cash gifts, right,
Yeah.
given by the
Yeah.
employer, they are taxable in the hands of
See,
employees. Like,
especially in the
why?
case of cash gift that you mentioned, you know that, non-performance, non-cash gifts, more than $500, you know the treatment, right?
Yes.
So always remember just a one-liner treatment for most of the items. And to be honest, for these tax questions, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes there can be any random situation as well coming out of nowhere, because obviously in the tax world and even in our corporate world, there are so many items that you can't just count. So therein you can try your logical mind, but mostly try remembering a one-liner technical point. Like in the case of cash gifts, non-cash,
Cash gifts
non-performance,
is
fine.
very easy because the
Yes.
thing with tax is that you don't have to quote any handbook sections
Yeah.
or anything like that. You're just like writing by your own words. And I think that is where you're kind of facing the issue that what do I write? So generally, trust me, from an employee perspective, there's generally not going to be a whole lot of things that will kind of where you will have
Interesting.
some sort of guidance or like a tax provision for. Yeah. So in those, like for the cash gifts, obviously you can mention the provision and you don't have to say anything. You just have to like, keep it as simple as we have in the notes that since it is this
Non-cash,
much and
non-performance,
yeah,
$500.
so then this will be taxed or will not be taxed. Something as simple as that is good. But then, even if it is a question like we discussed a case in the strategy session, and that had, I think, these insurance benefits and some like childcare plans or something that the
Yeah.
company was giving to the employees. So for the employees, it's generally very easy because you will just always keep it you don't have, because there is no regulations around the employees as such, right?
Yeah.
So you just like
Yeah.
keep it very simple that it will be allowed or it will not be
Yeah.
allowed. It is, given to all the employees, so it will
Yeah.
not be
I
taxable
think
in the hands of the
that's the
employee.
point I also wanted to mention. Sometimes, most of the benefits which are very general in nature, you don't know much about it. So those benefits generally, if those are given to all the employees and are not, specific to a group of employees or a particular employees, those are generally non-taxable,
Yeah.
if given as a company policy.
Yeah, and then you don't need to have separate explanations for, like four separate benefits if that is the question. So like you don't have to worry about it as long as you're like doing the right treatment and then you're just like explaining your thought process in a single line, you're good.
And honestly, the question whenever it comes on employer-employee, generally 6 points come up. Even if you are missing on one, I believe you should still be okay.
Yeah.
Like give your best, but even if you are missing on one or two, I think you should be okay.
So is it fair to say, like, if I don't find an explanation for something, just say it is given to all the employees and as per the company policies? So, because usually when I see the board response, they have written that supposing the health benefits,
Yes.
like the tax rules specifically, it is allowed as a deductions under so and so section. So
No,
I don't know,
you don't
like,
have to.
Not the section,
okay.
but yes, you can, maybe say as per the handbook, then you can, include these all employees and all benefit
Okay.
thing, and then you can say, it is not taxable.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No
No
worries.
problem. Yes, Sad.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. I had one question related to just general preparation strategy, and the other was a little technical. The preparation strategy question was mainly the cases that we're getting. I did see that the case one marking, we had the perfect solution in our email. For the case two, we didn't receive the solution because I couldn't submit that case two. Are we going to receive a solution for that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we will be sending out the cases today or tomorrow, and then I'll send that the solution as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. And in terms of day one, we're still parking it for later, like nothing to be done right now for day one at all, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a good point because this is a question we did receive a couple of times as well. So, one thing about that is that day one, is an entirely different approach and preparation as compared to day 2 and day 3.
Yeah.
But that being said, day 1 is not something that requires you to prepare for months at a stretch. But day 2 and day 3, they, because there's technicals, there's a way of writing cases, and then you do have a lot of material that you need to
Yeah.
like complete, a lot of cases that you need to practice.
Yeah.
That is why our first
Focus.
priority is that all of you focus on day 2 and day 3. And then when the time comes, like a month or a month and a half before the exam, that is when we will start with the day 1 strategy session.
Yeah.
When we do the strategy session, you will feel like day 1 is done, because there's essentially only 2 cases or 3 at max that
Yeah.
you practice for day 1, right? So day 1 in itself, you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it at all.
Just that in your mind, keep a buffer of three-ish days, 3 to 4 days that you would need to spend, not at a stretch, but maybe, in different intervals. One would be our strategy session, one would be writing one case and the second case. That should be it. And then obviously one revising closer to the exam. That is largely it.
Got it. And in terms of the writing of the cases, because I was a little behind in my timeline, there are still some technical aspects which I haven't seen the videos on. So at this point, not to skip whatever cases are being marked, I am just going through the notes and then typing and writing it off. Did you have candidates who in the last 2 months actually went through the technicals around that time and still made it? Just wanted to.
We had candidates who started at this time and made it. So,
Okay.
but not to say that,
Yeah, I know.
the very easy journey from here on. You have to invest some good time, effort. For
Okay.
whatever reason you were behind, that is a past. But the next 65 days, you should invest some good efforts and catching up, where you missed out on.
Gotcha. And your coffee chats for the September CFE, would that happen like once in a month? When would our next coffee chat be, and how would it look like until September's exam?
It generally, depends, because like we don't keep a fixed schedule, because we just know when we start receiving a lot of questions and it's generally near the exam time, then we start having them repetitively. But I think 2 weeks is a good time, like every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll try to have
Yeah.
these so that, like you all get a platform to ask your questions.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And probably a silly question, the last question from the preparatory standpoint. I do keep getting emails from CPA saying that introduction to PEP, congratulations, you've been enrolled in this. I have come in from that MOU pathway. So I had just paid my fees and that enrolled part. I didn't do anything after that. I didn't see a hall ticket or anything of that sort. Also, nothing to be done from the candidate's point after that, like days and everything.
So the introduction to PEP is a very, a formality thing. You just need to click on that and then just
I
proceed.
think there's
There
a
is no
few MCQ
MCQ
questions, if
questions.
just
Yeah.
some MCQ, so you can get done with that.
Yeah, it's like very, very basic.
I see. And just before the exam, they are going to tell us where the center is and what the hall ticket and everything.
Very closer to exam. I think like just a week
2 weeks. Yeah.
week
Week
or
or
2
two.
week
Yeah.
before.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The final question is regarding technicals, and right now I was going through management accounting. The one thing that did confuse me a little was the return on investment that we have in financial accounting. Technically, that's a product of the margin that we have versus the turnover of the operating assets, right? Now, if I look at it for any problem, any numerical problem that they would give, essentially numerically the sales get ruled out because I have sales on my margin as well as my assets turnover. In the notes, and I think somewhere in the explanation, it did say that the factors impacting ROI is increase in sales. So if numerically I don't have any impact from sales whatsoever, how does sales even play a role in return on investment?
Yeah. Maybe Saad, I can get in touch with you separately and I can help you explain specifically.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
No way.
No problem.
Yes, Ayo. Ayo, do you want to unmute? Okay, I think you have also pasted the question in the chat. If I copy and paste from nausea in day 2 and day 3, will I get any marks for that? So the thing is, this is a very common question again that we receive. You do not get marks for copy pasting or reproducing your technicals, because that is something you have to any which ways produce. Your major focus should be on integrating with facts of the case. So even if you're copy pasting from nausea, that is not a concern.
Even if you're writing it yourself, like we've seen students, they'll paraphrase the technicals in their own words, which is good because you know those technicals, you remember them, and you want to write them yourself. That's good. But you need to know that you don't get marks for quoting technicals.
Yes.
You get marks when you integrate and you tell that how that technical applies to the case.
Correct.
Right? What your analysis is.
Yeah. Mainly it is, even if you would see the marking key, it says if you have attempted or discussed. When we say discussed, it means how you have integrated facts of the case with the gap or the ASPE or IFRS that you are writing. Okay.
If you have any other questions, Akin, then maybe you can raise your hand again. But
yeah. Justine? Justine, do you want to unmute? Okay, maybe we'll come back to you, Hima.
Yeah, hi. I just forgot to ask one question. When I think recently we wrote a day two case, and in that in the debrief, I noted that they have took the reference from CPA Code of Conduct. So nausea will have access to CPA Code of Conduct as well because the student login that I have right now, it does not show the CPA Code of Conduct, and they have taken the whole reference from that.
Was it the question related to threats by any chance?
Yeah, independence threats.
So see, for the independence threats, we also have an acronym for that, SAFI, if you remember, self-interest.
Yeah.
So, that is all you need to know. So advocacy, familiarity, intimacy, that is all you need to know.
Okay, and we don't need to know like what they have done is I knew the name, but what they have done is like whole definition and then what kind
You
of
do it
situation can.
because see, the thing is, the CPA body's response, that is something which a lot of students, every student basically takes as a textbook, right?
Bible,
Because
in fact.
because you're learning
Oh, okay,
technicals.
yeah.
So they have to write everything. They write CAS numbers, they write nausea numbers, paragraph numbers, everything, right? But that is only for students to learn the technicals, to read through those cases and kind of prepare for the exam.
Okay, understood. Okay, so I can just write the name and maybe single line for each of them.
Correct.
Okay, thanks so much.
Yes,
Sonal?
Sonal.
Hi. My question is regarding the questions that we are doing right now from the CPA body answers that we are referring to. So the thing is, in day two, it's very, very long answers. I want to know that where to stop because I'm not getting, if I'm, able to identify the AO and try to solve it on my own, in the time frame that we have decided. Even then, when I compare my answers with the CPA body, it's anyways not matching. I know that, but I even don't know that how much to write, when to stop, and what is the analysis, just in case, whether to write the definition or not, or like this 204 rule. Also yesterday we were doing that RMZ case. So in that also I have written my own those threat to independence, but when I just refer to the answer, it has all the definitions, and then they are explaining the threats. So can you please just tell us the approach on how to write the things in exams, and how much to write basically?
So the first thing that I will say in that is, whenever you go to a CPA issued response, you don't like compare your response to it in terms of the length or in terms of the depth that they are going to. Now I know that it is a tricky spot to be at, because then you don't know that how much should I actually go into it. But my point here is that like we were addressing the first question about procedures. We told Karan that when once you've written 4 accounting procedures, auditing procedures, you have to move to the next point. Now, when you debrief it, you will notice that in the CPA response, they will have 10 procedures listed. Now, that in any way does not mean that the expectation was for you to write 10 procedures to get a C, right? But that being said, you will still go through each of those 10 procedures when you are debriefing, because that the CPA response, it is not for you to mark your cases and compare your cases.
Yeah.
It is to do that also, but more than that, it is to take learnings. It is to understand the technicals. It is to understand how they approach the question, and they'll write more in those only so that you understand what they are
It
saying, why
actually
they are saying.
helps develop your mind.
Exactly.
Like develops your, let's say a similar question comes up. It helps develop you tackle a similar question in a,
Yeah.
a better manner.
Because like when I remember that when we started debriefing, initially when I started going through those CPA responses,
Yeah.
I would be like, oh, my mind just opened, like, expanded, because then I started looking at case facts in a very different manner, because I learned and I used to be amazed by how beautifully they used to capture, one random statement that was there in the case on page number 2. And I had no clue that, okay, we could have integrated that also in that case, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first part, that don't, compare your response 100% to the on the body's response, because
Yeah.
it's never going to be that way.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to do it that way. The second thing is that what we can, I'm not sure if we haven't done it already, but
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah.
Maybe you
So
would
under the strategy session folder, ideally you should have an access to the strong response already.
Oh,
That is
okay,
something
okay.
we did share. Try going through that, like try taking that as a base that, okay, so in the end, you don't have to learn effectively, how exactly you should be writing. That is just a reference point.
just a
We
reference
just
to
want to,
see.
mention that how, let's say, in the cases that we are currently marking, let's say there are 50 students who are getting their cases marked, right? So that strong response is a response of one of the students who did not do everything accurately and to the point, but still got C, not in every AO, but in most of the AO. So don't consider that strong response also something that, this response is something I can abide by to 100%. But
Because
yes,
even their response would be wrong. Like
Yeah.
I said, that probably his materiality calculation was wrong.
yes.
But then because he followed the steps, he
Yes.
wrote it well, he was still able to get a C.
So that is a reference point on the quantum of
How
things
much
that you
you
should
need
be
to
writing,
write.
and
Yeah.
also the structure,
Yeah.
if you are following the right structure on.
So like take a reference from that just to see that, okay, this guy, you can write this little also,
Yeah.
this to the point, not framing long, lengthy sentences, and still be able to get a C. So try doing that. That will help you give a, perspective.
Okay. Yeah, because when we have started the case writing things, and we had just open our mind that how to find the case facts and integrate them. So I was getting RC, honestly speaking. But to get that C, I just focus on assurance thing first, because that's the main for day 2, and I'm scared of day 2, honestly.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I got assurance A as C, but that what happened in that, I just missed out the other assessment opportunities. So getting a C in one and getting RCs in other is actually very much demotivating for me on at that time also. So that's why I just wanted to know that how much to write, when to stop, and everything like
And
that.
the only thing is, just write more cases. The more cases you write,
And debrief.
and debrief. Yes. So
Yeah.
write for 5 hours, debrief for 5, 6, 7 hours. Like the more you debrief, the better it is.
The more
So
you will learn.
Kuneet used
Okay.
the word, beauty, and when you are reviewing your cases, you would actually be able to see the beauty when you spend time or you have time. Obviously, if you are, debriefing for 2 hours, because when you are actually debriefing, we can totally resonate with each of you here on the call that, when you're debriefing, then you feel that I just wrote a case of 5 hours. I can't spend 5 hours doing this.
Because I have to move on to the next
Yeah.
case.
So I'll just spend 1 hour. Okay, whatever they have to say, they can say, but I will spend 1 hour because I feel my debrief is complete. The point is not just to review that case. See, there are only limited number of cases that you can actually write and debrief. If there are, if you write 50 cases, does not mean that you would pass. We have seen people writing just 10, 12 cases in total in entirety, and they have also passed. There are variety of factors that go into that, but we feel that the more you spend time in what you are doing will take you towards the finish line.
Okay. And one last thing, that you have already, decided the timelines for the revision. I just want to know that I'm following your path completely, blindly. So all the cases that you have mentioned to revise the key takeaways, will we be able to, do that in those 4 5 days, like all the cases till now that we have done?
You
Yeah.
can, but if you feel like you need time or you have time, see, it depends on you, because that planner right now, that was prepared keeping in mind numerous students, right? But if you're
Hmm.
somebody who has more time and who feels like, maybe I can take out more time and spend a couple of more hours, then obviously you should go back right now,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
You're obviously able to maneuver it as per your availability and convenience.
Our point was to also revise those cases at the fag end so that you are able to know
Retain and
where you actually
yeah.
missed out on and you don't repeat that. Like
Yeah.
that's the only
Okay.
objective. So one of the
Yeah.
students was discussing today that out of the 6 hours on day three, she was able to attempt only three. So if you are actually able to attempt three, then what takeaways did you actually take? Was it FR? Was it just your time constraint, or was it just technicals? If it was just technicals, did you write what technicals you were missing so that those technicals, if they come to on the exam day or similar question, you don't miss out on that again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much. That's all my questions are. Thank you so much for your time.
No
Yes.
problem. Yes, Jasleen.
Hi. Are we allowed to use the calculator? Because I know there is Excel, but there is sometimes like in Word, we write something. So is it possible that we can calculate like in 1 or 2 minutes?
So you can calculate, but the thing is, how will you show to the market how you calculated? That's the only problem. So if you want to do very basic calculations, like which people, let's say, want to do in their mind, but you want to use a calculator, you can, but you can't use a calculator. Like, how would you actually demonstrate to the market? That's the only problem.
Like you have to show how you arrived at something, right? Like that is the only way the market will actually mark you that, okay, she knew directionally how to arrive at, let's say, something as simple as contribution margin per unit. Now we can just do it right on the question paper that if the sales is $10 and
Yeah.
then the variable cost was 5, then $5 is the contribution margin. But if you directly start with that contribution margin, um you may get marked,
Something.
but
Yeah.
then like, why risk it? Why you can simply just like, maybe you can do that there in the cell, you can say 10 minus 5, and then on the right of it you can mention that what you did, like as sale price minus variable cost. That's also enough. So like, just like finding ways to actually put it there. Now this does not mean that you like write 3 rows of one selling price, then variable cost, then contribution. You don't have to beautify it that much, but at least still be able to show how you arrived at
Yeah,
something,
because that
right?
is what we are there for, right? Because in our minds, all of us are CPAs, right? So it is mainly to show to the market how we are doing what we are doing.
Yeah, because in FR question, there is something like we have to make a journal entry and we have to add two amounts. So that in that way, we can calculate like in 1 second or 2 seconds.
Yeah, so
That you
that is fine. Yeah,
can do. For
basic
that, you don't have to go to the
basic
Excel.
calcs,
Like we are allowed to use the calculator, right? We are allowed to take the calculator.
You can't
scientific.
take the calculator, you get a scientific calculator there. So if you are comfortable with that, you can use that.
So if you want to practice at home doing something, so use a scientific calculator.
Yeah, like you can't take your own calculator.
Okay. And second, like sometimes in MA question, it's a very big question. So it's very difficult to like solve it in 10 minutes. We are just reading it in 10 minutes. So how to go with it? I get stuck in the MA questions only, mainly.
The thing with MA is, again, this is for all the students. How you go about MA is that when you are reading the case, you generally have 25% of the time allocated to case reading. Now, what you should do as a practice in for MA is that you came across the schedule which has the MA numbers.
Let's say ABC costing.
ABC costing. And now you know that that whole schedule, it just has the numbers in the table with the numbers. Now, what you can do is you can only read the paragraphs or the information given there and not, go into detail of the calculations or the numbers. You don't have to read all of that at that point, but still like go over it just to make sure that there is no integration that you might have to do with another
So
AO.
that saves you around 2 to 3
Yeah,
minutes,
yes.
which you can use when you're actually writing the case.
So when you arrive at that AO during your response,
Yeah.
then you can actually read it in detail. You can use those extra 2 minutes that you saved, and then you will have your full 10 minutes to write it.
Yeah.
That's first part. The second part is that in a detailed day 2 MA question, you're right that generally it has 10 components, right? And it is possible that you don't have enough time to, work on all the 10 components.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with that is that we have always advised our students is that you start with the easy points.
Yeah.
Out of 10, I think you would agree that 6 of the points are basic, like maybe prorated or
Yeah.
basic addition,
Like
subtraction.
something you can do in just the initial 4 to 5 minutes
Yes.
itself.
So try to do that first so that at
Yeah.
least structurally you ticked off 5, 6 pointers.
Yeah.
Now, when you're done with that, then arrive or, like take up 1 or 2 of the complex ones where there was some detailed calculation required, maybe number of days and, some sort of utilization
Something
percentage,
complex.
whatever, like something complex. Do one, depending on the time you have left, 1 or 2 of that. This, like now you would understand that the way I'm saying it, it means that you don't have to do all the 10 components, right?
Yeah.
And like we said, even in materiality, if you were listening to us, that even in materiality, even if you don't add or less the FR adjustments that you should have done, you will still get marks
Yeah.
because you did the materiality question well.
Yeah.
So that is my point here. Let's say you attempted 8 points, 2 points are still left.
Yeah.
And you have 2, 3 minutes. Now, in that point, you could feel like, oh, maybe in 2, 3 minutes I can do one more point. But then there could be another student who feels like, oh, if I have 2, 3 minutes, maybe it's time I start the conclusion and end my question there. So I would recommend that in the time that you're left, you wrap up the question, you do the conclusion. I agree that your amount will not be correct, but trust me, it will still not be correct even if you do all the 10 points, because there's always some sort of, could be some
Plus
sort
or
of
minus
mistake
error
or
there.
some sort of error, but you will still be awarded. Right? So that is the approach you should take for your MA questions.
So in summary, follow the structure, and within the structure, the conclusion also comes in, right? So,
Yeah.
and in the middle, like the middle part of the body, which is the main thing that you need to actually work on, do the best you can.
Start with the easy points so that you're able to capture major chunk, because if you start with a complex calculation, then you will just keep sitting on it for 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes you'll realize that, oh, I didn't do anything else, and that pressure will start kicking in.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Karan?
So, you just mentioned that we have uploaded the strong response on the strategy session. I just see the Wicked Water Sanya strong response in day 3. I don't see anything for day 2.
No worries.
So,
We will, so I'll just double check, post the call maybe today, maybe
okay,
tomorrow.
okay. And
And
and one last thing for day 1, I see the strategy session for on kernel bread. So I think we don't have to refer to that at all, right?
no, no, that is just for, curiosity. Some students actually wanted to still get into day one for another case. This was related to June attempt, so you don't have to get into that. You can wait. Maybe, we will conduct a session within the next month or so, and you should wait for that time.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna touch day 1. It's just I'm confirming so that I'm not missing on anything. That's
Yeah.
it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Uh, we are just going through if there is any other question. Just one more question that I feel is, sometimes student actually ask, in terms of technicals also, sometimes students don't feel that strong. The reason is, you know, uh, or in fact, before getting into the reason, I'll just discuss the question. Sometimes students feel that they're not feeling too strong on technicals. So should they just keep on revising technicals first, or should they like start writing cases? Obviously, by this time, most of you have started writing cases. Our belief has always been, and this is what has worked for many students, is that when you write cases and you debrief, during debrief is the time when most of your, like, where most of your technical learning actually lies. Surely, the technical notes and the sessions, that is your way towards case writing. But once you start writing cases, why we focus a lot more on case writing, obviously, so that you can practice more, but also from technical standpoint, because the 20% part that we said, is challenging, either day three, either day two, that part also gets covered, and you get a knack of how to tackle those sort of questions also. And even if you're not able to tackle well, at least you are able to learn. And then when we talk about, let's say, revenue recognition, irrespective, you read 200 pages or 500 pages of Bible on revenue recognition. And even if you know everything, whether it is practical life and whether it is CFE, and the revenue recognition is one of the topics. If it comes very straightforward, then you can attempt. Otherwise, all the time there is a curveball when it comes to revenue recognition, right? So our point is, as instead of reading technicals and our mentoring tips that we do, also focus on writing more and more cases, because while you practice, you also learn on implementing the technicals, because it is important to implement what you have been doing. So that would be our tip, that don't focus just on, obviously, the technicals that we are doing, but also write cases and debrief more so that you can learn. Okay, so last couple of questions that we can take here, Simmer.
Um, I've just started working on the cases, but I just wanted to confirm there are some cases which you mentioned in the schedule that need to be submitted. That's only relevant for the people who opted for the case marking, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then also I'm facing issue with the, like, when I'm trying to attempt day two or day three cases, obviously, especially with the text, there are a lot of provisions that we don't know, you know. So, what do you suggest the best approach? Either to go to nausea or just
I hope
keep
you are
on
not
working?
doing tax on day two. So you mentioned
No,
day
no, I'm saying day three, like day two and day three. I'm attempting right now, ignoring day one as you suggested. So, in tax, especially, I'm facing an issue that because I'm not into tax in my past, so I it's very difficult to learn everything from the tax perspective, and then they ask sometimes specific questions on the taxability and other.
Yeah.
How do you recommend? You said okay, you try to attempt, but then we don't have any clue of that particular provision. Then
So, like, first of all, just to comfort you, 90% of the people don't have any background in tax.
Yeah.
All right. So, what you need to do for tax is, okay, and you mentioned nausea. Uh, Even if start going through the tax handbook at this point, even the tax handbook does not cover each and everything that is tested in the exam, just because taxation is very, like,
Very
kind of
spread out.
situation
Yeah.
specific.
And
They can
very
just
and
give
very
you,
practical oriented
yeah, they can
people.
just ask you anything. So there are general thumb rules, and I'm sure that we would have talked about this in either the strategy session or the tax sessions in itself. So I would recommend that you give that a revision. But secondly, whenever there is some sort of like thumb rules, basically means that it is a company, you're looking from the company perspective, and they are doing some expense. Now, the question on day three can be on any random expense you see in the P&L, and they can just say that, okay, tell us the treatment. Now, you just have to know that if that expense relates to earning the income,
Yes.
by the company, then that will be
So
deductible.
you need to focus on the principle, right?
Yeah, the principle, the fundamental understanding.
Yeah.
If it's not related to the company earning income, then it will not be, deducted.
Yeah.
Like something as simple as that. The point with the technicals that we have covered and even the tax handbooks is that they will give you provisions only for line items or only for, items that actually have specific provisions.
Yes.
But there is a whole lot of general things that there is no provision for, but like general understanding and thumb
Yeah,
rules.
like one of the examples, one student was discussing earlier today, related to tax was, how do you tackle a question, let's say on gifts, or let's say on cash gifts. If you
To
will actually,
employees.
yeah, to employees, or from employees' perspective, if you will actually read what the CPA body says, uh, our response would be non-cash, non-performance, more than 500 taxable. But CPA body response runs into 8 lines. The same thing, but just going round and round, round and round, right? So again, reiterating Guneet's point also here and putting my also forward here. Focus on the principles when it comes to employer standpoint. Focus on what can be eligible. we can understand many are international accountants as well, and when you come to the Canadian tax system, uh, the things are a bit I would say different,
Different, yeah.
but mainly how the global taxation system actually works, the principles still remain the same. What is allowable, maybe let's say in any other part of the world, is generally allowable here as well. So just try to follow the principle would be our suggestion.
And then another thing with that is when you will start writing more cases, you will start seeing that, there is like a theme.
Yes.
When you debrief, you will see that there will only be like 2 or 3 expenses which will have special provisions
Yeah.
tied to it that you covered in the course. But then the other would be simple plus minus when you are calculating the net
Yes.
income for the company.
Yeah.
And you'll get used to it. And then like tax is one of the subjects that, like, if you are doing that with us and you're following the thumb rules and everything,
Yeah.
that will be your strong
Yeah. Yeah.
suit going forward.
And like having said that, we already know that there were some cases which have topics which are very different to even what we have taught or which are generally tested. Those are the topics which as we said, are difficult. To give you an example, in the initial cases that students were writing as per the schedule as well, we specifically put in one specific case. There is a reason why we have chosen those cases. There is a reason. So that tax question related to CPP EI, we did not go into any detail when we were doing the tax course, right? There is a reason why we included that in the schedule so that you are able to learn the CPP EI from that particular case. So now you need to think, which is why we are saying the technical learning lies in cases also and lies in the books as well. But more or less 90-95% is covered in the course. Then 5-10% is gets covered during your technicals, like review and your technical case writing. And there is a reason we didn't cover, because we wanted you to know that when you are writing that case, these are the sort of situations which will come in the exam as
Even
well,
in the exam.
that there would be questions that you don't know. Even after writing, let's say, 30 cases, there would be something different. So focus on what you know, then try to improve and learn on things that are coming new. That can be the theme of even today's sessions. Like,
Yeah.
try to focus and improve on what you find new, or where you feel you can maybe improve your technicals, improve your case writing, improve your speed.
And the third point is that even if you end up doing one or two
AOs.
like not AOs, like one or two calculations in that
Yes.
question wrong, you are still fine.
Yeah.
Right? Like I still remember that at my time, like in our attempt, there was this financing costs as an element, and like that was to be deducted over a 5-year period.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't deduct the financing cost at once, but I deducted it. And like when we came back and I was discussing, I just got to know, oh, I missed that. So it happens with everybody. Like
Yeah.
it will happen with topics, also that you might end up doing something wrong, but you will still be fine.
Yeah. And when we say during the tax sessions that, financing costs are deductible 1/5, that is a tax rule in itself.
Yeah.
Just that we don't discuss that in 8 lines, right?
Yeah.
So those are all of these are tax rules that you are actually learning. And more or less, that is the base from where you get asked questions from. So try understanding the principles. All right. So
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right, guys, good chat.
Yeah.
This was due for sure, but
Yeah.
we wanted to take some good time out to be able to give to you guys.
Yeah.
But we really hope that you found today helpful, and we already know that you guys are on track,
Yeah.
following the case submission deadlines and then doing well. Hema?
I'm sorry, I just have last question, I promise. Um, so sometimes when we write the case that we are writing the cases right now, and sometimes we feel that some of the topics we don't know or we are not. And as you said that going forward, when we do the cases, those will get covered. Eventually, we will learn about them. But at that point of time, what I thought, like in last 2, 3 days, I was pretty demotivated that I should do more cases, but I don't have time of course, because I'm working, and I don't get extra time to so I'm trying to fully follow your schedule. So would you recommend to do more cases, or the schedules or the scheduled cases that you have included in your schedules are fine and sufficient
That is more
for
than enough.
the
Yeah, that is more than enough. Subject to your debrief.
That is
If
what Ravneet
yeah,
said to
just
another
yeah,
writing just writing cases won't help because right, let's say you're writing 26 cases, averagely 3 hours, 3.5 hours, like averagely, right? So it almost tantamounts to almost 80 to 100 hours of your case writing. Then almost 80 to 100 hours of your debrief. That's like 200 hours. Now you need to divide. Even if you divide 4 hours every day, that's 50 days, and you are left with 65, right? So, but that is if you're writing from day one, right? Or like
yes.
case number one, and the schedule has around 26 cases, right? So just try to do the maths, how much time you can actually devote, but always include the debrief time the same, at least the same as your writing time. Reiterating same thing which we just said in the session today, we have seen students pass with just writing 15 cases, but they debriefed pretty well. And the number of cases does not matter. You need to make sure that the number of cases you are writing, you have good hold on, because sometimes how it happens is, and this was even with the Guneet back in the day, that whenever she used to write any new day two case, she would always have FRE in the mind, or maybe like farm fresh foods, because that is the case that she used to resonate
relate.
like very closely, because the reason is that that is the sort of business that she used to maybe relate with.
That
And
that was one of the first day two
yeah,
cases that I wrote. So that when I debriefed that, I just felt like it was a whole different world,
yeah,
like the way they
yeah,
like the way they kind of broke that down,
yeah.
the CPA
And then
body.
basically she used that as a benchmark against writing whenever she used to write a new day two case. So basically, the more cases you write, obviously it would help you practice more. But the question is, are you doing enough for the cases that are already there in the schedule? If yes, then sure, go ahead and like write more cases. We would never say don't go beyond 26. You can write 10 more cases or 15 more cases, but do you have the time to write and debrief? If it is just writing, it is not of that much of a use.
I would rather you write those cases. If you get extra pockets of time, you go back and revise
Yes.
your learnings than, going out and writing more and
Yeah.
more cases.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think because I don't get time apart from work, I only just get maybe 4.5 hour after work. So I strictly follow
Yeah.
my cases of following your
So
schedule.
that should be more than enough, to be honest, Shima. Just follow the process and just believe in it, that this is the process that has helped pass hundred of students. So just follow the process and try to learn from that.
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much for your time. I think this coffee session was much needed and it answered a lot of questions. I hope going forward, if we have any questions, and we will get to know about them in future coffee
Yeah, yeah,
sessions.
sure.
Thanks
Like
so
we are
much.
almost 2 months away from the exam, so we'll we'll try to get through a couple of more sessions here and there.
Yeah.
We try to do that all the time whenever we feel that the number of questions or the quality of questions as well are increasing. So that is always a good trigger for us to get together and meet all of you.
Yep. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
all right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today, asking your questions. Hope this was helpful, and we'll definitely meet super soon.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. We'll keep in touch.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you
good
both.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank
Bye.
you.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.